Your mother died a long time ago. Margaret Carter said it with the cake knife still pressed into Lily's birthday cake. The whole room went quiet. Lily stood at the end of the dining table in her pale blue dress, 14 candles smoking in front of her, while every aunt, cousin, and church friend suddenly found something else to look at. Her younger cousin blinked. I just asked if her real mom ever came to one of these. Margaret's smile stayed frozen. And I answered. Harold Carter's hand landed on Lily's shoulder. Not gently. Not cruelly. Just heavy enough to keep her still. You should be grateful, he said softly. Some children have no one. Lily stared at the white frosting, at the perfect roses Margaret had ordered, at the framed photo her grandparents had just given her. It showed Lily as a toddler between Margaret and Harold. Under it, in gold letters, was the caption, "The family who stayed." And for the first time, Lily wondered why love in this house always sounded like a warning. Nobody mentioned Emily Carter again during the party. That was the rule. At least, it had been the rule since Lily was 8, when Margaret sat her down in the spotless front room and told her that her mother was gone forever. Emily had been unstable, Margaret said. Emily had left. Emily had died not long after. Lily had cried into Margaret's lap while Margaret stroked her hair and whispered, "We saved you from more pain." For 6 years, Lily believed her. But on her 14th birthday, something about Margaret's voice cracked differently. Not sad. Afraid. After the guests left, Lily stood in the hallway holding crumpled wrapping paper and watched Margaret carry an old cardboard box toward the stairs. "What's that?" Lily asked. Margaret turned too fast. "Nothing for you." Then why was it in the dining room? Harold stepped between them. "Go get ready for bed, sweetheart." But Margaret's fingers tightened around the box like it was alive. That night, Lily waited until the house went quiet. Then she climbed the narrow attic stairs barefoot, using her phone light under her palm. Behind Christmas wreaths and old suitcases, she found the box. Inside were photo albums labeled by year. One was marked in Margaret's handwriting. Before everything. Lily opened it. There was Emily. Before we continue, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the story. Also, drop a comment with your location and local time. I always love hearing where you're listening from. Not the shadow Margaret described. Not the dangerous woman Harold avoided naming. Emily was laughing in a park, kissing baby Lily's forehead, holding her in a hospital blanket, smiling like Lily had been the whole world. Lily turned page after page until her breath stopped. A photo dated 6 years ago. The year Emily had supposedly died. Emily was standing outside Lily's elementary school. Lily touched the picture with shaking fingers. Then something slipped from behind it and landed on the attic floor. A sealed envelope. Her name was written across the front. Lily didn't open the envelope in the attic. She couldn't. Not with Margaret's bedroom directly below. Not with the old floorboards whining under her knees. Not with her own name staring back at her in handwriting she had never seen but somehow couldn't look away from. "Lily?" Margaret's voice rose from the second floor. Lily shoved the envelope under her sweatshirt. "Lily, are you upstairs?" Her phone light went out. For 1 second, the attic turned completely black. "I'm going to the bathroom," Lily called, forcing her voice not to shake. She climbed down carefully, holding the banister with one hand and pressing the envelope flat against her ribs with the other. Margaret stood at the bottom of the stairs in her robe, her gray hair pinned perfectly even at midnight. "What were you doing up there?" "I heard something." Margaret's eyes moved from Lily's face to her sweatshirt. "There are mice sometimes. Your grandfather will handle it." Lily nodded and slipped past her. The second the bathroom door locked, she sat on the edge of the tub and pulled out the envelope. It was old. The paper had softened at the corners. There was a smudge across the stamp and a return address from a town Lily had only heard of because Harold once said it had gone downhill. The front read, "Lily Carter. For her 9th birthday." Lily's fingers stopped. Her 9th birthday had been 5 years ago, after her mother had supposedly died. She opened the envelope so carefully it barely tore. Inside was a birthday card with a faded butterfly on the front, the kind little kids liked before they became old enough to pretend they didn't. The message inside was short. Lily read it once, then again. Then her lips moved around the words without sound. I love you. I am still here. I am trying every way I can. Please remember my voice. Lily dropped the card into her lap. From the hallway, Margaret knocked once. Are you sick? Lily covered the card with both hands. No. You've been strange since the party. I'm fine. A pause. Then Margaret said, do not go back into the attic. The doorknob turned, but the lock held. Lily stared at it. Margaret had not asked what she found. She already knew. When the hallway went quiet, Lily waited another full minute before slipping out and going to Harold's study. If anyone in that house would tell her the truth, it had to be him. Harold was the one who left extra cookies on her plate when Margaret said she was getting too old for sweets. Harold was the one who said, let the girl breathe, when Margaret corrected her posture. He was sitting behind his desk in a green reading lamp glow, glasses low on his nose. Lily stepped inside and closed the door. Harold looked up. Couldn't sleep. She placed the card on his desk. The room changed. Nothing moved, but everything changed. Harold didn't pick it up. He didn't ask what it was. His eyes went straight to the handwriting, then to the door behind Lily. Where did you find that? Lily swallowed. That's your first question? Lily. Grandma said Mom died when I was 8. Harold rubbed his mouth with one hand. Your mother was very confused back then. This was for my 9th birthday. Sick people write things that aren't true. She wrote, I am still here. He lowered his voice. You don't understand what your grandmother went through. Lily stepped closer to the desk. Was Mom alive when you told me she was dead? Harold didn't answer. He looked toward the hallway again. That small glance hit harder than any confession. Lily's voice cracked. Grandpa. His shoulders sagged. Your grandmother did what was necessary. The door opened behind her. Margaret stood there without blinking. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Margaret crossed the room and took the card from the desk. Lily reached for it. Give it back. Margaret held it above her. You are too young to understand what Emily did to this family. She's my mother. She lost the right to that word. Harold stood. Margaret don't. But Margaret folded the card once. Lily lunged. Margaret folded it again. Stop. Lily shouted. Margaret tore it straight down the middle. The sound was small. The damage wasn't. She dropped both pieces into the trash beside Harold's desk and looked at Lily like she had just corrected bad manners at dinner. Go to bed, Margaret said. This ends tonight. Lily didn't move until Margaret left the room. Harold wouldn't meet her eyes. So Lily walked out quietly, waited in the hall until both bedroom doors shut, then crept back into the study on her hands and knees. She reached into the trash and pulled out the torn card. The front was ruined. The message was split. But on the back, hidden across the lower corner, was something Margaret hadn't seen. A phone number. Lily didn't sleep with the phone number in her hand. She slept with it inside her pillowcase. By morning, the two torn halves of the card were flattened between pages of her math textbook, and every time Margaret passed the breakfast table, Lily could feel her grandmother's eyes searching her. Your grandfather will drive you today, Margaret said, setting a plate down in front of her. I can take the bus. No. Harold looked up from his coffee but said nothing. Lily pushed eggs around her plate. Why? Margaret's smile was thin. Because after last night, we are not pretending you're making good choices. The words landed like a lock clicking shut. At school, Harold walked her all the way to the front doors. Not the curb. Not the parking lot. The doors. Straight to class, he said. Lily nodded. Then the moment he turned away, she walked past her classroom, past the lockers, and into the library office, where an old beige phone sat beside the printer. Her hand shook so hard she misdialed the number twice. On the third try, it rang. Once. Twice. A woman answered. Hello. Lily almost hung up. The woman waited. Hello. My name is Lily Carter. Silence. Then the woman sucked in one sharp breath. Lily? Lily gripped the receiver. Who is this? The woman's voice dropped so low Lily could barely hear it. Emily has been waiting for this call for 6 years. The floor seemed to tilt. Lily pressed her free hand against the desk. Emily is alive? Before the woman could answer, the library door slammed open. Margaret Carter stood there in her cream coat, hair perfect, face pale with fury. Hang up the phone. The secretary at the front desk looked startled. 2 students by the copy machine turned around. The school counselor, Mrs. Alvarez, stepped out of her office holding a folder. Lily didn't move. Margaret walked toward her slowly. Lily, hang up the phone. The woman on the line said, Lily, listen to me. Margaret snatched the receiver and slammed it down. For 1 second, all anyone heard was the dial tone buzzing from the cradle. Then Margaret turned to the secretary and gave a polished, wounded smile. I'm sorry. My granddaughter has been contacted by a dangerous woman who abandoned her years ago. We have handled this privately, but apparently she has found a way to manipulate Lily. Lily stared at her. You told me she was dead. The room went still. Margaret's smile twitched. This is not the place. You said my mother died. Mrs. Alvarez stepped closer. Lily, who are we talking about? My mom, Emily Carter. Margaret reached for Lily's arm. We're leaving. Lily pulled back. It was the first time she had ever done that in front of other people. Margaret's eyes sharpened. Do not embarrass this family. Lily dug into her backpack and pulled out the torn birthday card before fear could stop her. The 2 halves trembled in her hands. She wrote this after Grandma said she was dead, Lily said. It says, I am still here. Margaret's voice hardened. That woman lost the right to be called your mother. Mrs. Alvarez looked from Lily to Margaret. Mrs. Carter, are there custody restrictions we should be aware of? Harold appeared in the doorway, breathless, like he had been called from the parking lot. Everything is fine, he said quickly. This is a private family trauma. Mrs. Alvarez didn't move. Lily is making a serious allegation. Margaret gave a short laugh. Lily is 14. She found an old card and built a fantasy around it. I found a photo too, Lily said. Mom was outside my school the year you said she died. Harold closed his eyes. Mrs. Alvarez noticed. So Emily Carter is alive? The counselor asked. Margaret's face changed. The softness disappeared first. Then the sadness. What remained was something Lily had only seen behind closed doors. Margaret pointed at Lily. You will hand me that card. No. The word came out small, but it stayed in the room. Margaret stepped forward. Now. No. Mrs. Alvarez moved between them. I'm going to document this conversation. Margaret's mouth tightened. You have no idea what you're interfering with. I know a child is frightened, Mrs. Alvarez said. Margaret turned back to Lily, no longer pretending for the secretary, the counselor, or the students watching from the copy machine. After today, she said, there will be no phone, no computer, and no more school unless I am standing beside you. That was when Lily understood. The lie wasn't something her grandparents had told years ago. It was something they were still protecting. Margaret grabbed Lily's wrist and pulled her toward the hallway. Harold followed, whispering, Margaret, not here, but he didn't stop her. As they reached the office door, Mrs. Alvarez touched Lily's sleeve. Lily looked down. The counselor had folded something into her palm. A photocopy of the torn birthday card. By the time Margaret pulled into the driveway, Lily's wrist had a red mark around it. Margaret didn't apologize. She parked, got out, and said inside. Now. Harold followed them up the front steps with his keys still in his hand. Margaret, maybe we should all calm down before. Not another word, Margaret snapped. Inside, she took Lily's backpack and dumped it on the entryway floor. Books hit the tile. Pens rolled under the bench. Lily's math textbook fell open, but the torn birthday card was no longer inside. Because the copy was in her shoe. Margaret searched every pocket, every folder, every zipper. Then she held out her hand. Phone. Lily hesitated. Margaret's voice dropped. Do not test me today. Lily handed it over. Margaret turned to Harold. Remove her bedroom door handle. Lily stared at her. What? You want secrets? Margaret said. Then you lose privacy. That's not fair. Margaret stepped closer. Fair is what kept you fed, clothed, and respected while your mother dragged our name through courtrooms and clinics. Harold flinched at the word courtrooms. Lily caught it. Courtrooms. Margaret saw her notice and immediately turned away, pulling her own phone from her purse. Within minutes, she was in the kitchen calling relatives. Yes, she had an episode at school, Margaret said, loud enough for Lily to hear. No, we're handling it. She's showing the same emotional instability Emily did. Lily stood in the hallway, barefoot on cold tile, listening to herself become a story before she even had a chance to speak. The same words they used for Emily were being fitted around her. Later, when the house had gone dark, Lily lay on her bed with no door handle and no phone. The hallway light cut a thin line under the door. Every creak sounded like Margaret coming back. She waited until the grandfather clock downstairs struck midnight. Then she slid the photocopy from her shoe. The paper was wrinkled and warm, the phone number blurred slightly from sweat, but the return address was clear enough. 3 towns away. Lily opened her door by gripping the metal square where the handle had been. She moved down the stairs one step at a time, avoiding the middle boards that groaned. Harold's old desktop sat in the corner of his study. She turned it on and winced at the bright startup chime. "Come on," she whispered. The screen loaded slowly. Lily typed the name with stiff fingers. Emily Carter. Then the town from the envelope. No obituary came up. No memorial page. No funeral notice. Instead, the third result showed a clean white web page with blue lettering. Emily Carter Design Studio. Lily clicked it. There she was. Older than the album photos. Hair shorter. Smile smaller. But alive. The page had a photo of Emily standing in front of a studio window, holding fabric samples. Under the picture, the update date read, 2 weeks ago. Lily covered her mouth before the sound escaped. The photo in the attic. The birthday card. Harold's face in the study. Margaret bursting into the school office. The missing obituary. Her mother had not died. Her mother had been close enough to have a business page. Close enough to send cards. Close enough to stand outside Lily's school. Lily hit print. The machine groaned. No, she whispered. The printer jammed with a loud plastic snap. A light turned on upstairs. Lily froze. Footsteps crossed the ceiling. Then the stairs creaked. Harold appeared in the study doorway in his robe, his hair flattened on one side. He looked at Lily, then at the computer screen, then at the half-printed page hanging from the printer. His face seemed to age all at once. Lily, he said, barely above a whisper. She's alive. Harold didn't deny it. That was the answer. Lily pulled the paper from the printer. She was outside my school. She sent me birthday cards. She has a studio. She's alive. Harold sank into his chair. Your mother came here, he said. Lily's hand tightened around the paper. Here. For 3 birthdays. His eyes stayed on the rug. She left gifts on the porch. What gifts? Harold rubbed his forehead. Books. A bracelet. 1 year, a blue coat. Lily remembered wanting a blue coat when she was 10. Margaret had told her blue made her look washed out. What happened to them? Lily asked. Harold's mouth trembled, but his voice stayed quiet. Some were donated. Some. He looked toward the hallway. Lily already knew the answer before he gave it. Your grandmother burned others. Lily stepped back like he had touched her. Harold stood too quickly. We thought we were protecting you. From birthday presents? From confusion. From instability. From being pulled between homes. Then why tell me she was dead? Harold opened his mouth. Nothing came out. From behind Lily, Margaret's voice cut through the room. Because dead people can't disappoint you. Lily turned. Margaret stood in the doorway holding Lily's confiscated phone. The screen was lit with the call log from school. You called that number, Margaret said. Harold whispered, Margaret, enough. No, Margaret said. Now it is enough. She looked at Harold like Lily wasn't even in the room. Call the attorney. First thing in the morning, we are placing her somewhere private until this obsession passes. Lily's stomach dropped. You can't send me away. Margaret's smile was cold. I am your legal guardian. I can do what is necessary. Then the doorbell rang. All three of them went still. It rang again. Margaret turned toward the front hall. Through the glass beside the door, Lily saw a woman standing on the porch. Older than the pictures. Shaking. Alive. And in her hand was the other half of the torn birthday card. Emily Carter stood outside the front door like someone who had practiced this moment 1,000 times and still didn't know how to survive it. She was older than the woman in the attic photos. Her hair was shorter. There were faint lines around her mouth. But Lily knew her before anyone said a word. The eyes were the same. Margaret moved first. She crossed the hall and reached for the lock. Do not open that door. Harold stayed frozen beside the study entrance. The doorbell rang a third time. Then a calm woman's voice came from outside. Mrs. Carter, this is Mrs. Alvarez from the school. We requested a welfare check. Margaret's hand dropped from the lock as if it had burned her. What? She said. Through the glass, Lily saw the school counselor standing beside Emily. Behind them, on the walkway, was a police officer with a notepad in one hand. Margaret turned on Lily. What did you do? Lily's mouth was dry. I told the truth. You don't know the truth. Emily's voice came through the door, shaking but clear. She knows enough. Margaret spun back toward the door. You have no right to be here. Emily lifted something in her hand. A folder. I have every right to be here, she said. I'm her mother. Harold whispered, Margaret, open the door. Margaret glared at him. Don't you dare start pretending you had no part in this. The officer knocked once, firm and official. Mrs. Carter, we need to speak with Lily and confirm she's safe. Margaret's face changed. The cold control from minutes ago bent into something careful and wounded, the expression she used in public. She opened the door only halfway. Officer, this is a misunderstanding, Margaret said. My granddaughter has been emotionally manipulated by a woman with a long history of instability. Emily did not push forward. She did not shout. She stood on the porch holding the other half of the torn birthday card, and her eyes stayed fixed on Lily. Hi, Lily, she said. Lily's hands curled around the half-printed studio page. She could not answer. The woman at the door was alive, breathing in the cold porch air, wearing a gray coat with one button missing. Alive. Not a grave. Not a warning. Not a story Margaret could control. Mrs. Alvarez stepped beside Emily. Lily, are you okay? Margaret answered before Lily could. She is fine. She is tired. She is going to bed. No, Lily said. Everyone looked at her. Her voice came out thin, but it came out. I'm not fine. The officer's eyes moved to Margaret. We're going to need to come inside. Margaret opened her mouth, but Harold reached past her and pulled the door wider. Emily stepped into the entryway slowly, like she was afraid sudden movement would make Lily disappear. Margaret blocked her path. You are not touching her. Emily looked at her mother then. The softness in her face changed. I'm not here to take anything by force, Emily said. That's what you did. Margaret's cheeks flushed. After everything we gave that child. You gave her a funeral for a living woman. The room went silent. Emily opened the folder. Papers trembled in her hands, but her voice stayed steady. I have copies of the letters I sent. The gifts I had delivery receipts for. The petitions I filed. The visitation requests. The certified mail that came back refused. And I have the hearing notice from the court date you never told me about. Harold sat down on the bottom stair as if his knees had stopped working. Lily looked at him. What court date? Margaret snapped, do not answer that. But Harold stared at the floor. Emily did. 6 years ago, she said, eyes still on Lily, I got sick after I lost my job and separated from your father. I was scared of what it was doing to you. So I asked my parents to take care of you for 3 months while I got treatment. Lily swallowed. You gave me to them? For 3 months, Emily said, and the words broke slightly. Not forever. Margaret folded her arms. You were not capable of being a mother. Emily nodded once, painfully. For a little while, I wasn't. That's why I asked for help. Mrs. Alvarez wrote something down. Emily turned a page in the folder. When I recovered, I tried to bring you home. Your grandparents had filed for temporary guardianship. They told the court I was unstable, unreachable, and had made no effort to contact you. Lily looked at Harold. His face crumpled. Emily pulled out one document and held it where everyone could see. Your grandfather signed an affidavit saying I had abandoned contact. The officer looked toward Harold. Sir? Harold's lips parted. I sign what Margaret put in front of me. Margaret's head jerked toward him. Harold. He pressed both hands to his face. I knew she had called. I knew about some of the letters. Some, Emily said, her voice sharper now. You knew about all of them by the second year. Margaret pointed at Emily. You were not going to drag Lily through your relapses and your failures and your shame. My shame? Emily repeated. Margaret's voice rose. People knew. They asked questions. At church. At school. Your name was attached to clinics and hearings and caseworkers. I was not going to let Lily grow up under that shadow. Lily stared at her grandmother. So you told me she was dead? Margaret looked at Lily, and for the first time that night, she seemed to realize the room no longer belonged to her. I gave you stability. You made me mourn her. Margaret's mouth tightened. I spared you years of disappointment. Emily held up the torn card half in her hand. The photo Lily found mattered because it proved I was near her after the year you claimed I died, Emily said. But this card was one of many. You kept some because you were afraid delivery records could trace them. You hid the evidence in your own house. Harold whispered. Margaret kept a box. Margaret turned on him. You coward. No, Harold said, voice shaking. I was a coward 6 years ago. Lily's eyes moved back to Emily. You came here? Emily nodded. Every birthday? For 3 years in person. After that, my attorney told me not to approach the house anymore because your grandmother threatened to report me for harassment. Emily swallowed hard. I left gifts. I wrote cards. I called schools. I filed papers. I never stopped trying to find a way back to you. Lily's face twisted, but she did not run to her. Not yet. She stood in the entryway with 14 years of life behind her and 6 years of grief suddenly turning into something else. Say it, Lily whispered. Emily's eyes filled. What? The line from the card. Emily looked down at the torn half in her hand, then back at Lily. Her voice broke into a whisper. Please remember my voice. Lily made one small sound, almost like she had been hit. Then she crossed the entryway and grabbed Emily's coat with both hands. Emily wrapped her arms around her daughter, but gently, like she was holding something returned from a place she had never been allowed to enter. Margaret stepped forward. Lily. Lily tightened her grip on Emily's coat and did not turn around. The officer moved slightly between them. Mrs. Alvarez said, Lily will not be staying here tonight. Margaret's face went blank. Excuse me. There will be an emergency custody review, Mrs. Alvarez said. Given the statements made tonight, the restriction of Lily's communication, and the allegations involving false documents, this placement has to be reviewed immediately. Harold looked up. Where will she go? With her maternal aunt temporarily, Mrs. Alvarez said, while the court reviews reunification with Emily. Margaret laughed once, sharp and empty. You are taking my granddaughter because of a birthday card? Lily finally turned around. No, she said. Because you told me my mother was dead. That sentence did what shouting could not. It ended the argument. The next days did not fix everything neatly. They exposed everything. The counselor's report triggered an emergency hearing. Margaret's control over Lily's phone, school access, and medical records was suspended. Harold's affidavit was referred for investigation when Emily's attorney produced returned letters, delivery confirmations, and copies of visitation petitions. Relatives who had praised Margaret for raising Lily right began calling Harold instead of her. Some asked why Lily had been told Emily was dead. Others asked why no one had ever seen a grave, a funeral program, or even an obituary. At church, Margaret still sat in the same pew, but the space beside her stayed empty. That was the loss she could not explain away. Harold admitted he had signed the false statement because he wanted peace in the house more than he wanted truth. His confession cost him the respect he had hidden behind for years. Margaret lost the role she had built her life around. The rescuer, the guardian, the woman everyone trusted. Emily did not get Lily back in one dramatic sweep. She had to earn ordinary moments. Their first visits were supervised. Lily sat across from her in a quiet office and asked questions that hurt to answer. Did you ever stop looking? No. Did you know they told me you were dead? Not until your call reached my friend. Did you hate me for believing them? Emily shook her head so hard she started crying. You were a child. Lily cried then too, but she did not hide her face. Weeks later, Emily brought a box to therapy. Inside were copies of every letter she had saved, photos of the gifts before she sent them, receipts, court papers, and birthday cards Lily had never received. Lily read each one slowly. She did not forgive the missing years all at once. She did not pretend pain disappeared because truth arrived. But she started letting Emily drive her home from school. She started spending Saturdays at Emily's design studio, sitting by the window while Emily worked. She started asking about baby pictures, favorite songs, and whether she had really hated peas as much as Emily claimed. One afternoon, Lily framed the torn birthday card. Both halves. Under it, she placed a new photo. Not Margaret's staged picture with the caption, "The family who stayed." This one showed Lily and Emily standing outside the design studio, squinting in the sun, awkward and tired and real. On Lily's 15th birthday, there was no speech about graves. No warning disguised as gratitude. No hand holding her shoulder in place. Just Emily setting down a cake that leaned slightly to one side and saying, "I know it's not perfect." Lily looked at the candles, then at her mother. "It's here," she said. "That's enough." 6 years after being told her mother was dead, Lily learned the truth was not hidden in a photo. It was hidden by the people smiling beside her in every picture.